Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a rare and special opportunity. Today we're meeting with Assemblywoman Melendez of the 67th District. She represents us up in Sacramento, and she's fighting and leading the charge to preserve our rights, especially with the Second Amendment. So come on in, join us.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Assemblywoman.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Have a seat.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. Are you ready to get started?
I am ready. What are we talking about today?
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Second Amendment. Why do you support it?
Well, let's talk about the fact that it is everyone's right to keep and bear arms, right? That's laid out in our Constitution. That is indisputable, though we have a lot of people who would like to dispense with that part of the Constitution. That's our right. Now, I grew up in Ohio. I didn't grow up in California. So in the part of the country where I grew up, school was actually closed on the first day of hunting season because they knew, most of the kids, particularly the boys, they weren't going to be in school that day because they were out hunting with their dad. So it was a big part of my growing up. I think it's unfortunate that we're moving away, I think, too quickly from kids learning how to respect weapons, learning what they're used for, learning how to properly use them and store them, especially in California. I think we're getting away from that too quickly. So I would have to say that, it's as simple as it's our constitutional right. In fact, I think it probably existed outside of the Constitution. When you look at the Second Amendment where it says, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, kind of, implying that the right already existed, right? It wasn't the government that was giving us that right to keep and bear arms. It already existed, and they were saying, you're not going to infringe upon that right.
Excellent, excellent. So I also hear that you've authored some Second Amendment-friendly legislation this year. Could you tell us a little bit about AB 3026?
I can. That's my CCW bill. As you know, in California, it is a May issue state. So if your county sheriff decides you are of good moral character and you've proven that you have a real need to have a CCW, then he or she will grant that right to you. It's not consistent across the state, and I think if you can pass the background check, if you can pass all of the other hurdles associated with getting a CCW, from the psychological, background or test, the background check, everything, the training, then you should be given your CCW unless there's some good reason why you shouldn't have one. I think the burden of proof should be on a sheriff to prove why you shouldn't have one rather than you to prove why you should have one.
That's good. Does that have anything to do with national
reciprocity? So I know that President Trump spoke of national reciprocity during his campaign. I am hopeful that they actually move on that because I think that makes sense. I think if you can have a CCW in New Mexico, you ought to be able to have that same permit use and right in other states. If a sheriff has determined, you are responsible enough to own this gun, you don't have any felonies in your background, there's a wide variety of reasons why one can't have one. If you don't fall under any of those categories, then your rights should be the same in every state that you go to. So I don't know, if they'll move forward with this, and I know a lot of people are hopeful.
Yeah, I agree with you. As a lawmaker, especially in California, you probably encounter a lot of bills that attempt to restrict the right to bear arms. How do you deal with all that?
Oh, gosh. I can't tell you how many bills I've seen since I've been in office that are gun control bills, because in California, I think that's a box that Democrats have to actually check off to get reelected or to get their party's endorsement, is what gun control bill did you introduce this year? Because we see them every year. And so when I think, there's nothing more they can do, they do. This year, there are two bills that your viewers may not be aware of, but I have bad news. One of them is that it would make illegal raffling off a firearm at an event, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's an NRA dinner, whatever it is, you would not be allowed to raffle off a firearm. Bearing in mind that the same rules apply, they're not going to hand over a loaded weapon to you at this event and say congratulations. You still have to get it through a federally licensed firearms dealer. You still have to go through the background check. You still would have to wait your 10 days. All of those rules apply, which is the case right now. They want to make that completely prohibited. The second one, and this one made me laugh a little bit because I thought it was a joke at first. It's a bill that says it would create a do not sell list for people who want to be placed on that list. They would place themselves on the don't sell me a firearm list. Now, does that make any sense to you? Do you know any criminal who says, you know, I feel like shooting someone today. I'm going to put myself on this do not sell list so that I don't harm anyone. It's ridiculous.
It's hard to get my head around somebody also that would give away one of their rights.
Well, I mean, but it's just the idea that they think that someone would actually, you know, someone who wants to do harm would actually put themselves on this list. Because if you don't want to do harm to someone, then you won't. You simply won't pick up a firearm and shoot someone, right? Putting yourself on a list, it just doesn't make any sense. And they're not going to do it.
And more importantly, criminals don't follow the law.
Exactly.
So why would they? So yeah, I'd look at that and think, yeah, you've got to be joking.
Well, that's you know, I haven't seen the bill yet. I don't know if it's been through the Public Safety Committee yet. Probably has, but it hasn't come to the Assembly floor. But I guarantee you that bill will pass. Because every gun control bill that comes through the legislature passes with just about every Democrat voting for it.
It just seems to get rubber stamped because, you know, Republicans are in the minority in Sacramento.
Right. The only time we stop gun bills in California, which is a rare occasion, but the only people who stop these gun bills, believe it or not, is the governor. He's the only one who has at least a shred of common sense left to look at some of these laws and say, this just makes no sense. I mean, they have another bill that would make illegal any piece or part that could be used to make a firearm.
I've seen that.
It could be a spring, it could be something that's, you know, used for a variety of things, but if it can be used, and it's a very broadly written bill, it was already vetoed by the governor once, I believe, a similar bill. And even he said, this makes no sense. It's so broad, and you're talking about pieces of a weapon. Maybe they can use for a gun, maybe it's for something else. But why would you make someone a criminal just for possessing it?
It's just too arbitrary.
It's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, do you have any other news you want to share with us?
I think I've shared enough bad news, perhaps. I don't know.
Any good news?
At this point, respective to guns, no, I don't. I mean, like I said, this is, I think, a box that Democrats have to check, that this gun control bill. And, you know, we have a bill, believe it or not, and it doesn't directly relate to firearms, but it sort of ties in. And this is coming through the legislature, I think, next week. This has to do with unions being able to keep their meetings secret. Okay. Where they've tied this into firearms is the author's reason for this bill is he says the San Bernardino shootings, at some point, somewhere on those grounds, somebody was having a meeting. He's trying to use that tragedy, that massacre, he's trying to use that as a way to say that unions should be able to keep their meetings private. Now, what kind of person uses the death of innocent people and tragedies like that to advance a nonsense bill to keep your meeting safe? But it's a tool. You know, that's how they use it. It's always a tool.
Yeah, it's veiled, and it doesn't make any sense, and it is agenda driven.
It's absolutely agenda driven. I mean, you can't go a day in California without someone coming up with some new way to infringe on your rights and mine. And I've had members of the Assembly tell me to my face, the only people who should have weapons are the military and law enforcement. They absolutely believe that. You know, when there's another bill that wants to make it, change the age to 21 to be able to buy a long gun. And when I say, okay, so I'm a military veteran, as is my husband. So are you telling me that at the age of 19, where I could carry a firearm as part of my job on a regular basis, but when I'm in my own home, or when I come home to visit, I can't carry that same firearm because I'm not safe? I mean, what sense does that make? But they won't make a carve-out, at the very least, for veterans or for law enforcement. So it's not about safety. It's about banning guns in their entirety.
I believe you. I believe you. Well, I'll tell you what, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We know you've got a lot of things going on. We appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to the next time we're able to get out to the range together.
Yeah, I'm ready to. Thanks so much.
All
Ed.
right, you take care of yourself.
I will do that.
Wow, that was really cool. Hey, we just had a great interview with Melissa Melendez, our Assemblywoman for the 67th District, and she's a really powerful woman. We're fortunate to have her representing us in Sacramento. On behalf of all of the subscribers, we appreciate you being here for us, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. Anyway, thanks for joining us on Shooter the Series. My name is Ed Thorell from Firearms Education and Training. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.